Hi, I'm Karl Wells. We're back today with part 2 of our interview with a man who has become a basketball legend in Newfoundland and Labrador. This is his story. It's called Chasing a Dream, published by Flanker, and it's a heck of a read, let me tell you that. Anyway, without further ado, I'd like to welcome back Mr. Karl English. Welcome, Karl.
Thank you.
So, we ended off with you basically going to Hawaii.
Yep.
And how many years did you spend in college there?
I was there for 4 years, so I initially went out on the visit. I wasn't signed then, but when I got out there and met all the coaching staff and every place was amazing, I decided to make the plunge. It's ironic, but I picked the most, Newfoundland, the most eastern point in North America. I went to the most western point in North America. So I couldn't go any further. I don't know if that's for whatever reason, but it seemed like it was the place to be, island to an island. First year was a bit rocky. I had ankle surgery. I'm guessing that dates back to the stupid stuff I was doing on the road, but it was really bad. So I played a couple of games and then I redshirted. Difficult, but at that point I was only 18, so I recovered. I came out of the cast and everything, and I was better than ever. My second year was equally challenging because I felt I was ready, but the coach didn't believe in freshmen at the time, and I was like a freshman. So we kept pushing and pushing, and to be honest, I was getting ready to transfer. I was transferring to another school, but I was preparing my body and everything for that. Mindset was good, my grades were good. And then the other players basically went to him and said, you got to give this kid a chance, right? And about 10 games left in the season, I ended up playing, starting. We went into the WAC tournament as a freshman, so we were only like 6th seed, so we weren't very high, but I had a fabulous tournament. We got to the finals against Tulsa. I scored 32 in the finals, hit the shot to put us in overtime, scored 6 of the 8 points in overtime. And with that one game, my whole life changed, to be honest. I went from being nobody knew who I was to transferring to being the big man on campus to here's your team. So the same coach that didn't believe in me, here's your team. We went to the tournament, which is huge. So Hawaii's they've only been back there one time since I left 25 years ago. So that'll tell you. So we went there 2 of my 3 years. So after that, they haven't had a stretch there in almost 20 years. So that's a big deal because there's only 64 teams every year, and there's over 500 schools. So we went there. We played Syracuse, ironically, in that first game. Played well in the tournament, big lights. Then that's when everything changed. Went back for my sophomore year, had a great year. 16, 17 points a game, was all conference. That's when people felt I should have entered the NBA draft. I had no idea at that point in my career that I was good enough to do so. Like, my mindset was to get a college scholarship. I really didn't start thinking about the NBA until my junior year of college. I fast-tracked my education. I did stuff because I had a goal that I wanted to be done after 4 years, but I graduated as a junior with a degree in sports management. My junior year was a hell of a year. I was All-American candidate, Wooden Award candidate, led the team in scoring, All-Conference Player of the Year. Hawaii again was 3 great seasons in a row. They had me on draft boards. That's when the NBA stuff started coming in. They had me on draft boards anywhere from 25 to 37 in that mix. So I decided to declare for the NBA draft after my junior year. Prepared and trained for that. Went to Portsmouth, Chicago, played well there. This is where the story takes a turn. So I decided to do that. I could have went back for my senior year, which hindsight, when things don't turn out well, probably should have done. But I was kind of at the stage where I was ready to move on. So I entered into the NBA draft. So the agents that I was with, they selected Indian Motorcycle downtown, big restaurant, brought up all
This was in 2003, right?
This was in 2003.
Yeah. And there was a lot of talent up that year.
There was a lot of talent. That
LeBron James.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah. Who else was there?
Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, arguably, hands down, the best draft of all time.
Anthony.
Carmelo Anthony,
Yeah.
Kurt Heinrich. hands down the best draft of all time.
Yeah.
If the people I was with understood and that I had a year left, they would have told me to go back to school. Because essentially I would have went back to school, I could have worked on a master's or just done some electives and just focused on basketball. But there was 2 reasons. All the drafts, so I worked out for 13 teams. So these were stupid NCAA rules. They don't have these now. So if you work out for those teams, so they fly you in first class, they put you in the best hotels, they give you all this food. So if I went back to school, I had to pay back that money to the NCAA. So once I declared, so I could declare without hiring an agent, which I did, then I worked out for the teams, but now if I want to go back to school, I have to pay back that money. How was I going to pay back that money? You know, it was over 100,000 American dollars. You know, at the time, okay, now it's no problem. Back then, I didn't have anything. So those type of things were decisions that, okay, well, let's go all in. So I signed with the agency. Probably the worst mistake I ever made in my career. But again, not knowing and not having anybody to call and not having direction, I was...
Why? Because you didn't get the representation you thought you should have had, or...?
I signed with Harold Sippett. It was an agency. There was the guy that I met in school when I was in Ontario. He was connected with these guys, and I trusted him. He helped me go to Hawaii. He was friends along the way, and I trusted him, so I went with that agent. But I could have went with Steve Nash's agent, Bill Duffy, for instance, who was a legendary NBA agent, and then I'm friends with Steve. He could have guided me the right way. You know what I mean? But instead, I was Newfoundland loyalty. I was loyal to this person, and for those reasons, it really, really hurt me. So then, anyway, I went to. At that time, I was a big deal because my story behind and then the level of basketball I was playing. So there was probably 30 TV crews there from all across the country, and I was supposed to go anywhere from 20 to the highest draft pool had me on was 37. So I was like, okay, I'll take my chances. So all my family's there, we're at this restaurant, and it's just pick after pick, all the cameras coming on every time, shining the lights, I'm like, and I just went undrafted. So not only did I not get picked at all, I went undrafted. So they took a lot of Europeans after, that was the great draft class, and I just kept sliding and sliding. And then teams were calling me, and they were like, well, I was like, yes, just draft me, I'll go anywhere. They're like, no, we have no draft picks, we want you to come to our summer league. And I'm like, talk to my agent, and they're like, oh, his phone is off. So his phone was off, yeah. So let's just say there was 4 brothers there that were ready to do some damage to this guy. So it was a very rough, it was a rough night. It was a very difficult night.
So you ended up with the National Basketball Development League, right?
Yeah.
And you called it the Wild West.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, there was a place, so after we went undrafted, 2 days later I went to minicamp. I went with the Pacers, and I also went, so the Pacers really liked me. So there was a train of events that happened. So Donnie Walsh, who's still there, he was in charge of the draft. But the day of the draft, his granddaughter got hit by a car and he wasn't there. So when I went to the thing, he's like, I want to sign you. And I was like, well, why didn't you? I had this chip on my shoulder then because the whole world, like, I lost probably $4 million in endorsements, you know, from General Mills to Air Canada because I was the next guy after Steve. So all these endorsements were waiting. And I was there like, okay, I got to prove everybody wrong. And I asked him the question. He said, well, I wasn't in the war room. You were my draft pick, but I was dealing with my granddaughter. So I was like, well, sign me and I'll come back. Right now I'm going to Minnesota. So I went to Minnesota on Sunday. On Monday morning, he had a contract for me, and I went back. So I had a 2-year contract with them. I had half guaranteed the first year and half guaranteed the second year. So I was extremely happy with this, but then the NBA has these luxury tax rules. So then as camp is going on, they sign Jermaine O'Neal to the max. So then it goes by pecking order. So my $500,000-600,000, or let's say yours, it was Jameson at the time, Jameson Brewer, he was making 3.5. So because they're over, they have to pay double. So your 3.5 equals 7, and my 600 equals 1.2. So it came down to a numbers game, and then I got cut, and that's when I ended up in the Wild Wild West. So it was the G League at the time. It was the D League. Now it's the G League. So there was only 6 teams. So there were 6 teams, and you're covering all this area. Like we go on bus rides 22 hours, you know, just to play these 6 teams over and again. So I did it for the first 2 years. The first year I was in Florida. or no, first year I was in Charleston. My second year I was in Florida Flame with Dennis Johnson, the late great, that played with Boston. I call it, another reason Wild Wild West is a roller coaster, you know. So towards the end of that season, I got called by Orlando, and they said, "Are you ready? How you feeling? We're going to bring you in for the rest of the season." So they had a contract for me to sign. So I was on the way. My agent was flying to Orlando. I was driving up, and they went to practice. They said, "We'll send your itinerary." So I was flying up. So they sent me the itinerary, and I got all my stuff packed. And then when they went into practice, when they came out, Otis Thorpe blew out his knee. So their big men went down, and they had to sign a big, say, "Oh no, we're still going to follow you, but we can't bring you in right now." So I literally had all my stuff packed on the way to the airport. Agent was en route. So I was like, "I'm done with this." I was like, "I'm going to go overseas." So that's when I started my career and went overseas.
And you went with Virtus Bologna.
Oh yeah. How did you remember that?
Italy.
Yeah.
What was it like being from Patrick's Cove, Newfoundland?
Yeah.
Here you are in Europe. You're in Italy. I mean, it's one thing to be in the States,
Yeah.
but now you're in Italy.
Yeah.
Foreign country, foreign language, and all that. What was it like for you?
That was crazy. That was a part of the culture shock would be an understatement.
Yeah.
I'll give you one example. The first 3 weeks I was there, so they gave me a car. In your contract, they kind of pay for everything. It's tax-free, so you make really good money, but you get the bonuses, your house, your car, food. So I was in the car and I couldn't read the signs. So after 10 days of driving on the second week, they came and I had all these fines. I was like, "What are you talking about?" They said, I took the bus route every day, so it was only for the bus. I took the bus route and they fined me 5,000 euros every day. So every day they took pictures of the car and they kept taking pictures of the car and they hit me all these tickets. So 2 times a day I was going back and forth to bus routes and I got all these tickets. So that was the first thing. The food was great, you know, but like we had this one sponsor and, you know, I won't tell. So anyway, he was part mafia or something, but every day he wanted to show us his weapons. But he, you know, we come in there and he's like, "Oh, I'm a big supporter," and he'd give us a meal. So for 10 euros, we get a 7-course meal, you know, but every day he had to let us know who he was and what he represented. So it was a very, very big culture shock. I must say, language was difficult. Just hearing the instruction in Italian and then trying to figure it out and dissect. And then your assistant coach was speaking to you in English, but was he telling you exactly what the coach was saying? So that season was up and down. My next season I went to Croatia and I played for Zadar, which was where the legend Dragan Petrovic played for. Thought that was going to be crazy when I went there, just saying like, where am I going?
Now, Croatia was
Yeah.
the first time you actually got to live with your
With
now
my
wife, Mandy,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, so she was finished school and she came over then.
That must have made a big difference.
That made a huge difference. So you had someone there to support you, someone there at all the games. Before that, you're fending for yourself on everything. You come home from a horrible practice and you're just venting. But at this time as well, I didn't have cell phone. There was no FaceTime. Skype was the main form of technology at that time, right? So it was that second year in Croatia that changed everything. So, go ahead.
Well, you said that the fans in Croatia were a bit crazy.
Oh, crazy. Understatement. So I'll give you some stories about Croatia. So beautiful place, lived on the Adriatic Sea, had this villa right above overlooking, little fishing village as well. You see the guys going out. Beautiful city, but then we go in. So my first game, you come up these stairs to the court, right? It hold about 4,000 to 5,000. Place blocked, like basketball was everything. So first half go, boom, come back down, come up second half after halftime, and I could not literally see the other basket. It was just full of smoke from people smoking cigarettes in between the thing. And I'm like, where am I to? So we played Partizan, and that was a huge rivalry from their civil war years ago. Got caught up in some of that because it meant so much more to them than what it meant to me, you know, and they were actually late on some money for me. And I said, I'm not playing. And the agent came to me, and he was Croatian. He said, play this game. He said, I guarantee I'll get you your money. Don't worry. Blah, blah, blah. He said, you have to play. This game is bigger than you. It's bigger than all of us. So I went and played the game, and I had my best game of the season. So I had 35, and we beat Partizan. After that, I didn't pay for a thing in the city. I didn't pay for a meal for the rest of the season. You know what I mean? I was instant credibility as legend after that one game. But like, they would wait outside the arena 2 hours before as you're driving in. You had your car and your name is on your car and everybody's honking. Like, they treat you, you're like a rock star, right? So then that season, then I was MVP, All-Star, MVP, all this stuff. And then I went from there. I had some NBA options, so I went back and done some summer camps and different things, and then I ended up going to Spain. So then my next 2 years were in Gran Canaria. That's where I had my son in my second year in Gran Canaria. Ryder. I had Ryder in Gran Canaria. Gran Canaria is a coast off the coast of Spain, off the coast of Africa actually, but it's 2.5 hours from Madrid. Beautiful city, again, 8,000 fans there, beautiful place to play.
One thing, Karl, I was curious about, from reading the book, it's my understanding that Spain is a highly respected basketball country.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's the best league outside the NBA. It's highly doubted because the amount of talent they do, and they're very professional. So like a lot of places, I hadn't had a lot of issues, but a lot of guys won't get paid. You know, the conditions or living conditions are not good. Spain was first class everything. You're good apartments, like something as simple. You have to put in your contract that you want a dryer, or not you won't get a dryer. You have to put in that you want an automatic car, or not you get a manual. Like you have to literally put everything in your contract that you want, or not you're fighting for it. So some countries, and at the end of the day as well, in Europe, Spain not as bad, but in Europe, if they don't want you or you're not playing well, you're cut. So you might have a guaranteed contract for $500,000. They can cut you and say you were out drinking in the community. You know what I mean? So Spain is more professional and doesn't do a lot of that. So from that, my next year I went to Victoria. Victoria, we won the ACB championship. I played with 7 NBA players on that team. That team probably would have beat 18 NBA teams. That was the level that it was at. From there, then I went to Badalona, which is down in, went to Basque Country, so island, north, Basque Country, then went down to the ocean in Barcelona, then we went to Sevilla, which is southern Spain, then we went, Madrid, all over. So I played the next multiple years, till 2013 in Spain.
We skipped over something which I'd like to just go back to. 2007, you played with the Americas Championship. You played for Canada.
I did.
In Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And you got to play against people like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony. What was that like? It must have been quite
that was amazing.
Heady experience.
Yeah, that was amazing. And there was so much more around the game, because for me, it was a chance for me to prove that I deserved to be there, you know? So before I took the Victoria contract, I came off Gran Canaria. I led that league in scoring, or second or third in it. So the Raptors brought me in, and I had a great mini camp, and we were in Vegas about to start, and I had the Victoria offer, which if I had to go to the NBA that year, I would have made 50% less money. So that to give you an idea how much that contract was worth. And then Jay Triano was the coach, and I fighting for a spot on that team, and then they made a trade, and they brought in 4 guards. So I ended up leaving Las Vegas and going to Spain. So then every summer from 2004, for over 10 years, I played for Canada. So we were fighting to try to get to the World. So exhibition season, one year was we played 2 summers in Las Vegas. The first year was against Kobe and the Dream Team, and same team the second year. The first year, I was scared to death. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm pretty honest of how I feel. But for me, it was here you're playing the best players in the world. So that was a shock right off the bat. 30,000 people, Las Vegas, family came down. But now for me, it's like, okay, if I score 15, 20 points, I prove to the world that I'm good enough to be there. So all this extra pressure and everything I put on myself. And then, to make it worse, Kobe Bryant comes out, and his job is to guard the best player on the other team. So he's picking me up full court, he's grabbing my arm, and in my ear the whole time, he's like a train. I'm not kidding you. He was like, I'd run faster, he'd go, faster, faster, right? I'd whack his arm away, he'd grab it again, you know what I mean? I'd elbow him, he'd do it again. So no matter where I went, and it was like this is real, you know what I mean? So I didn't play that good that first time, 4 or 5 points. The next year I came in, I was at peace of where I was at with my career, and I was like, okay, I'm focusing on over here. I was after having my son, I was in a good headspace. So right off the bat, I walk out onto the court and I start talking trash to him. I was like, every point I score, I want a pair of shoes. Oh, it's the other thing. So I go at him and I score a few points, but I have him over on the left wing and I cross him, and the whole place went up. Like, oh shoot, cross Kobe Bryant. But then something inside of him just snapped, and he scored 8 straight points. So I come down, I have him right on the end, he still hangs there, I tap his hand, he scores it. Comes in, he rips me at half court, I come by, he steals it, goes in and dunks it. The next play, we trap him at half court. He literally stepped through the trap and banked it from just inside half court. And I was like, oh shoot, he got and woke up Mamba, right? So anyway, it was an amazing experience. But to be on the court, and I think I scored 16, 18 points that game, and to show that I good enough to be there was a moment I'll never forget. And something I can tell, like even when I started my school here, or done the book, people don't understand the places and the people I played against. So to be on the court with those guys, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant, you know what I mean? It was a pretty amazing time.
The former NBA All-Star, Steve Nash, who actually wrote the foreword for your book, you have a great deal of admiration for him, don't you?
Yeah. So Steve is a Canadian that, like, I put him down as one of the best point guards ever. But to be as good as he is with his athletic ability and to be so smart, like you're talking 6'1", 6'2", and then to be a 2-time MVP, and the amount of time that he puts into his craft, you know, just training with him in the summertime and the way he's meticulous and the way he studies it, and then to be just such a down-to-earth human being, right? Like he came in to my college practices, you know what I mean? And like you tell the coaches, yeah, Steve's coming by, they're like, yeah, whatever. Comes in and just sweats like a normal, just like a normal guy. You know what I mean? So, yeah, great admiration for a guy like that.
So, just getting back to Europe, you've played in Spain, Italy, Croatia, Greece, Germany.
Yeah.
You could mention Puerto Rico too, although it's not in Europe.
Yeah. Puerto Rico was crazy too.
But 7 years in Spain.
Yeah.
Now, 7 years in Spain to me means that Spain has to have some special meaning for you now.
Yeah, Spain.
Plus your child was born there.
2 children. My son and my daughter were born in Spain, so they're Spanish citizens first and foremost.
Yeah.
Then we started injuries started piling up. So I led the league in scoring in 2012, and typically that person goes straight to the NBA or signs multi-million-dollar contract. So I had those multi-million-dollar contracts on, and then I done my wrist, my shoulder, and then I hurt my back with Team Canada. So they led to just being on the shelf for like 6-8 months, and then that's when I went to Puerto Rico, just to show everybody I was healthy. Then the next year I went to Greece. Now Greece is a beautiful country. I lived in Athens, in Pozuelo, just up the street there. So it was beautiful, beautiful city. Crazy fans, and you talk about crazy fans. So in Greece, home fans are the only ones allowed. So you can't, if you're a fan of my team and we're on the road, you're not allowed in the building. So one night, 500 of our fans stormed the building, and they beat up the security and they let them in. Then they came out with tear gas. All the cops, riot police come around the thing, tear gas the place. We go out for 40 minutes, then come back in and play the game, right? And security is lined up along the side as we play. And then that stuff gets me going. I don't know why, but I was like, I had security with me everywhere I went because I led that league in scoring. And like we go to certain places and they'd be like, English no talk today, no trash talk, no nothing. So I'd have everywhere I left 3 guys to be with me. Anyway, I start getting going the game, hitting shots, and I start talking to the crowd. They start finding bottles of pee. They pee in the bottle and throw bottles. I'm dodging them, then they all come out and cover me, taking me off the floor. So one in Croatia, I never told you that, they lit the flare. So they light these flares. You know the flares you see at the soccer games?
Yeah.
So they lit the flare, and they threw it on the court and it caught the coach's pants, right? So they had to, so that game we exited, an hour later they cleared everybody and we came out and played without any fans. So they put sanctions and things in. It's like the soccer mentality. Soccer's huge over there, but they're very crazy, singing songs, like you'd have your own song. So if you play well in these places, you're like a legend, you know what I mean? So it's a pretty intense ride, but it's amazing to be part of. It's been special to be part of.
There's so much more we
Yeah.
could have talked about,
Yeah.
but we have a minute left. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your academy.
Yeah, okay. Briefly came back home, St. John's Edge. Amazing part. It didn't end the best, but just being able to come back home and touch so many people, and played in front of 50,000 people, but playing in Mild 1 in front of 6,000 when you know 4,000 or 5,000, you know, it had a different level of accountability, and it was very special to me. I started the academy. It's on Kmart Road in Paradise. We have over 400 kids there now, over 30 coaches. So we teach them basketball, but the way I learned it, through accountability, hard work, and dedication. Dream larger than life, and I'll try to help you achieve whatever you can there. It's going well. We're in our second year, and like I said, we doubled in size from last year. So hopefully we're doing something right. The big thing now is continuing to instill the messages of what I've learned and open up doors for these kids to show that they can play the game of basketball at a high level.
Hard work beats talent if talent refuses to work.
True. Facts.
That's your adage.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, and believe, like you said, you got to believe in yourself. Anything's possible.
This is the book, Chasing a Dream, the Carl English story from Flanker. It's a great read, highly recommended. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
We'll see you again next time.